Listen up, real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and agents. You're in the right place. Unlocking the secrets to real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Titanium Vault, hosted by RJ Bates III. Here's RJ.
What's up, Titanium Vault? I'm your host, RJ Bates. Sitting down with you guys today for another case study. Today, I'm going to be talking about the story that I kind of always briefly touch when I tell how we got into real estate investing, but I never actually have fully told the story. It's the first house that I bought. So we're going to go way back to 2010, 2011. I can't remember the exact date because I was still young and immature and didn't keep good records. But I was working at Pizza Hut. Everybody has heard that story where I was a general manager and I realized I was not fulfilling my destiny. So I quit that job. And after I quit that job, I cashed in my 401k. I paid the massive amount of penalty on taxes, and I used that money to purchase my first house. Now, I didn't have that large of a 401k because I was still in my mid-20s, and I'd only accumulated, I think it was like $10,000 in the 401k. So after the taxes, I only had like $6,000 or $7,000 left. And what I ended up doing, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And now looking back at it, I realize what a great deal this was for the person that sold me the house. But for me, I didn't have great credit, and I didn't have any income, and I didn't even know how to purchase a house, right? Like I didn't know how to go get a mortgage. I was just completely ignorant about all of these like real life things, right? Like just things that they don't teach you in school. And I found this house, and it was like a lease option or a rent-to-own type of deal. And this gentleman that was selling the house was like, look, if you give me $6,000 down, and then the rent will be $900 a month, every month, $100 of the $900 goes towards equity, and you have the option to buy the house in the next 3 years. So it was a lease option, and I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, hey, I have the right to buy this house for X amount of dollars, and every month that I'm paying $900, I'm getting $100 worth of equity. So we gave him the $6,000 down. It was my first ever house. I loved it. It was kind of a quirky little house. It had a rear entry garage that came from an alley. And the garage basically separated the two backyards. So it has two backyards, one on the right side, one on the left, and the house cuts it right down the middle, and then it has two fences on each side. So kind of a unique little house over in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up. And I just, I loved the house and ended up having a lot of life memories there. I had multiple roommates, different living arrangements with people that came in and out, just kind of help, me afford the house at the time. When I quit that job, I ended up getting a minimum wage job as a cart boy at Tour 18 out in Flower Mound, Texas, before finally Elijah De La Garza, my current partner in Titanium Investments of Hawaii and Alaska, he started a company called Exact Claims, and then that's when I worked at that. That was my first entrepreneur experience. And then later on in 2012, that's when I started Fairway Solutions with Cassie DeHaas. And that's when, everything changed for me. And eventually we got into real estate investing and started Titanium Investments. But I also, that's the house that I brought my son, Trinity, who has co-hosted an episode of the Titanium Vault. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's one of my favorites because he's got his little baby voice still in that episode. But that's where I brought him home. And for the first couple of years of life, that's where we enjoyed living together and having his first Christmas and first birthday parties and all of that. So I have great memories of this house. But long story short, at some point in time, I had to actually like buy the house. And when the 3 years came up, which was probably right around 2014, it kind of snuck up on me. We were 2 years into being entrepreneurs, and I I was making money at this point in time. So I knew I had the money to afford the house and try to get a mortgage. And it was like, no, as an entrepreneur, you didn't have, 2 years of tax returns showing enough money. Our first years, we showed quite a bit of a loss. And so I just kept getting denied the right to get a mortgage. And so this was my first experience of negotiating a real estate deal where I basically had to go to the seller and say, look, I can't buy the house right now, but I still want the house, and I'm going to find out a way to do this. And it kind of got a little bit awkward there where, he started explaining his side of things. And now as I'm an investor, I realized like what his issue was. Like he needed to get out of that deal. That was his plan. And, there at that time I was ignorant. So I was like, I don't understand the problem. Like, I'm still paying you monthly. I know you have to be making money on this, which is the truth, but it wasn't part of his plan. He needed that to go down within those 3 years. And so eventually I found a way to purchase the property and get a conventional bank loan from a local bank here in Fort Worth, Texas. And, at that point in time, I moved out of the house and I've turned it into a rental property. We've had one tenant in there the entire time. It cash flows. It's great. And, I kind of have a goal of mine to own every house that I've ever lived in at some point in time. I know it's kind of a weird goal, but, as a real estate investor, it's something that I want to do. And so that house I'll probably keep forever. It's turned out to be a really great deal because we ended up, the original purchase price of the property was $72,000. But by the time that I got around to being able to actually purchase it, the market had just, skyrocketed here in DFW, and it eventually increased all the way up to, it was, by the time I could buy it, it was worth probably 110. And he cut me a deal, and because I didn't close on time, we renegotiated the price, and I ended up buying it for $92,000. So not being able to close on time, that cost me $20,000. But now today, that house, I just recently pulled comps for it, and it's worth $160,000. Now, of course, that's because we're currently on this upswing here in DFW. I'm sure there'll be some sort of slowdown or correction at some point in time, and maybe it's not worth that much. But hey, we have a ton of equity in it now. It cash flows. It's just crazy to me to think about how that story has evolved from, I didn't know what I was doing, and looking back at it, seeing how much money that investor made on the lease option. I mean, that was a really good deal for him. At one point in time, he was able to refinance the property and pull some of the equity out that it allowed him to purchase a whole nother property free and clear, obviously on that side, but he had the new mortgage on the house that I was buying from him, and that's why he needed me to cash him out. So crazy little story. I don't know if I recommend anybody to purchase their first house after they quit their career without knowing what they were going to do, but it worked out for us. And I'll always look back at, the risk that I took on that property was kind of the first risk that I ever took in my life or career that kind of catapulted us to be like, okay, we can do this. We can find out a way to make this work. And ever since then, we've been able to do that. So that's today's case study. Nothing, there's not a ton of content where it's like, hey, follow this, but, it's still a cool story to share. So I just want to jump on here and do that, guys. Hope you all are enjoying these case studies. We do have some great guests lined up for future episodes coming soon. So we'll probably do a couple more case studies. I know we have one big one that I think a lot of people are kind of looking forward to, which is a flip in Hawaii that we just completed. So we'll probably do a couple more case studies, and then we're going to get back to the regular format of having guests on the show. But if you do like what you're seeing, make sure to give us a review on iTunes or give us a thumbs up on YouTube. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Titanium Vault with your host, RJ Bates III. For more info and to stay up to date, visit www.podcast.thetitaniumvault.com and on facebook.com/The Titanium Vault. If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on the Titanium Vault.